Hey guys, it's CY from C Team and welcome back to our GregTech tutorial series. Today you'll learn different power levels and cables associated with GregTech. So let's get started. We're going to start out at the lowest tier of electricity here. This will be presented in ascending order. So this tier is the ultra low voltage or ULV tier. The cables and machines associated with it will have a max capacity of 8 volts or EU. And this basic leg cable used as an example here has a max capacity of 2 amps. We will be covering amps later in the video and kind of explain how those work. And voltage or volts and energy units or EU can pretty much be used interchangeably in a way for GregTech. I guess the only real difference is like when you're storing electricity, EU is a little bit more accurate than voltage. But yeah, so the machine here is the ultra low voltage transformer. This basically reduces low voltage to ultra low voltage. So if you look at the top of the screen there, it says step down LV 1 amp to ULV 4 amps. So you can't actually generate ULV, you have to reduce it to ULV. And this is, we'll cover how this machine works and what to use it for way later down in the tutorial series. You kind of need it for like small electronics and stuff in the mod. But yeah, so that's that tier. Next tier is the low voltage tier, or LV. At this tier, the max capacity voltage between the machines and cables that will be used will be 32 volts. And this basic tin cable shown here can handle 1 amp. And then this is the basic macerator. So in our last video we covered the basic generators. Those generators generate 32 EU or volts, and this is one of the machines that you'll be using in our next video when we cover the machines. So that's that. Let's move up to the medium voltage or mega voltage. At this tier, the max capacity will be 128 volts. And for this basic copper cable, it can handle 1 amp. This machine is the advanced macerator. So again, it can hold more energy than the previous tier, but it can also handle the higher voltage. So that's that. So let's move up to the high voltage tier. The high voltage tier, we're looking at 512 volts, and this basic gold cable can handle 3 amps. This is the advanced macerator 2, holds even more energy, I believe 4 times as much. And I personally like this tier's machines. The white looks pretty clean to me, so it looks nice. But this gold cable is 3 amps, and I kind of put it here because I liked using it when I got to the high voltage tier, because gold's really easy to get, and 3 amps is pretty good. Again, we'll cover what that really means later on in the video. But yeah, so next up we have the extreme voltage tier. This is the advanced macerator 3. Again, it can hold more power, and the max voltage for the machines and cables and generators at this tier is 2048 volts. Okay, right here the example is the aluminum cable. Can handle up to 1 amp. Again, it's made out of the aluminum or aluminum, and this specifically is pretty easy to make. It's just aluminum, easy to find, easy to work with. So if you're here, and this is probably one of the cables I would start with when you get to the tier. Next up we have the insane voltage tier. Max capacity volts will be 8,192, and this is the elite macerator. So basically here we have the platinum cable. It can hold up to 2 amps. Platinum's not too bad to get either, so that's good. Next up we have the ludicrous tier, okay, and the ludicrous voltage, or LUV. This tier, we got a max capacity of 32,768 volts, and this osmium cable can handle up to 4 amps. And this is the Elite Macerator 2. Next up we have ZPM 0-point module tier. It can handle up to 131,072 volts. This trinium cable can handle up to 6 amps. Okay, and this is the Elite Macerator 3. Next up we have the ultra voltage tier, or UV. It can handle up to 524,288 volts. And this titanium cable can handle up to 1 amp. And this is the ultimate macerator. Okay, so this is the second last one, and this is your last like single block machine they're going to deal with, and for all the machines, right? Once you go up past this, it's going to be multi-block. So this is the highest here is UHV, or highly ultimate voltage, or high ultra voltage, however you want to say it. And it can handle up to 2,097,152 volts. This europium cable can handle up to 2 amps. And yeah, so this is the multi-block. So I just put the main block here, but it's pretty big. I think it's a 5x5x5 multi-block, and it's just one massive macerator, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, obviously we'll cover that way down the line when we get there, but those are the basic tiers. One thing to say is, with each tier you go up, the voltage capacity is 4 times higher. Exactly. So just keep that in mind. And each of these tiers come with their own generators and machines, at least until high voltage. Once you get to once you get past the high voltage into the extreme voltage tier over here, you're gonna have to make a power substation. So we'll obviously cover that. That won't be too far down the road. Alright, so over here we've got the first 3 tiers of generators with the respective cables and macerators. So this is just to show how they normally are supposed to operate, and the normal, probably the first setup you'll have for each one. So here we've got the LV tier. Of course, this generator is producing 32 volts. This is the tin cable rated for that, and then we have the basic macerator. So we just fill this up. It's going to generate the power. Again, I'm using the basic combustion generator. It's what I recommend to use if you have access to gasoline. Again, I recommend using the pneumatic craft mod. It's really easy to make gasoline for that mod. You just process some crude oil and it makes it right there. And you can use auto crafting with the pneumatic mod if you have like an ME system, so that you can automatically create the gasoline, put it in your system, and then put the gasoline into your generators. That's what I recommend to do. And so then we have the MV tier. This is 128 volts. These do hold more gasoline as you go up in the tiers, and they hold more energy, and of course produce more energy. So we got the copper cable here and the advanced macerator. And then we've got the high voltage 512 volts generator. Got the gold cable here, basic one, and the advanced macerator 2. So yep, these are the first 3 tiers. That's just the basic ways you hook up a machine to it. It doesn't exactly matter which way you put the cable on the machines. I haven't tried to put them in the front. They may not work in the front, but just underneath works, any side works, and even the top will work. That I know for sure. Over here we have a high voltage generator. This produces 512 volts. And we got the high voltage macerator. Now for the cable, we have the tin cable. It's 32 volts LV. So we're gonna see what happens when we try to put 512 volts through the 32 volt cable. All right. So let's put some gasoline in here. Some smoking, and it caught fire and dissipated. So be careful when you're hooking up machines. If you have multiple tiers going on, because you're going from LV to advanced, you'll still need to, make each machine for the advanced tier using the LV tier. Don't, you know, put down a bunch of cables and then hook them all up, because you might be using the tin, and then you go to MV and now you need at least copper wires, and put machines on it. You'll just burn up all the cables. If you want, I might recommend, just starting out making gold cables if you can, because, that way you don't have to worry about this issue till at least you get past the high voltage tier. That's what I did anyways in my personal world. Next up here, we've got an example for what happens when we've got, let's say, an MV generator with an MV rated cable, that's copper, and you're trying to push, higher voltage into a lower voltage machine. So we got the LV basic macerator here. So we're going to be pushing 128 volts to this 32 volt macerator. So let's put some gasoline in here and see what happens. And it blows up instantly. So really be careful with that. Again, when you're kind of changing tiers, you may run into a scenario where you accidentally put a lower tier machine on a higher tier cable, and I have done that before on accident, and yeah, so it's a lot of work you just lost right there. All the resources gone. So do not make that mistake. Keep an eye out for that. Next up, we've got the 5 different sizes for the cables. This is the tin basic cable right here. 32 volts, 1 amp. Then we've got the 2 times tin cable. Still 32 volts, but 2 amps. Then the 4 times, 32 volts, but 4 amps. Same cable, but 8 amps. Same cable, but 16 amps. So every time you double the size of the cable, you double the amps. Alright, we're about right after this, we'll get into the amps. And then we've got the 16 times europium cable. This is for the ultra high voltage or highly ultra ultimate voltage. So this cable, the base one, like this, starts out at 2 amps, so it ends at 32 amps. And the gold one starts out at 3 amps, so it ends at 48 amps. Okay, so, but to, in short, amps is just the amount of machines you can power off of one cable if you have the volts for it. So, okay, so coming over here, we're going to review exactly how the amps work. So, let's talk about volts and amps and how you can think about them. Volts would be like water pressure, and amps would be like the amount of water in a pipe or a hose. So let's say this is a pipe. You can pretend that there's a 100-gallon minute of water getting pushed through here at 100 psi. So that the psi, or pounds per square inch, would be compared to the volts, so the actual power of the electricity, and the amps would be the gallons per minute, so 100 gallons per minute. That's the volume of water or volume of electricity going through the pipe or cable, right? So let's double that. This is a, well, this is at first, this is a 1 amp cable. Now let's double it to a 2 amp cable. That would mean you could still have the same 100 psi going through the pipe. That's double the diameter, or 2 amps. But you would have more water coming through that pipe because it's twice as big. So the cable's twice as big as well, so that would allow 2 amps of electricity, or double the amount prior to that. And an amp, how you can think about that in GregTech is going to be a generator like this one produces 32 volts per tick, or 32 EU. So that would be 1 amp. So that goes through the cable to the machine, and this machine can use up to 32 volts or EU per tick. That's 1 amp. So one generator's
max capacity of power, 32 volts, and one machine's max capacity of usage of power, 32 volts, is 1 amp. One generator powers one machine, 1 amp. Okay, that's what this is rated for. So if I had another machine on here, this generator could only power one machine at 32 volts at a time. So let's say I had something here processing 32 volts. That's what it requires to do. And something here as well in another machine. This would go do its thing. Once that's done, then this would start up. Okay, because it's 1 amp. If it was 2 amps, then it would power both machines at the same time. Over here we've got the 2 MV generators on 1 MV cable right here where they connect, powering one machine. If I put in gasoline in both of these, you can see it only reaches 1 amp. That's because there's only one source using that power. And if you were to use this, it's only gonna do, it hasn't passed capacity of 128 volts, so having 2 doesn't make this process twice as quick. It only, when you power it, only one generator is going to fill this. They both don't split the load to power it twice as fast, or they don't split the work to power it the same amount of time, just using both. None of that. It's just one generator, whatever one, is going to turn on and power one machine. Now if we have two generators, 2 machines, see that up there? It did go up to past 2 amps. It just filled up a little quick there, but we have 2 generators, 2 machines, which means that's 2 sources of max capacity volts for this cable going to 2 sources using max capacity, which results in the 2 amps being used in this cable once they meet up here. So here it'd just be 1 amp because only one source of power. This would be 2 amps because we got 2 generators in this section of cable and then 2 in here. So that's where you can use the 2 amps. So when you upgrade cables, make them bigger, that's so you can power more machines off one cable. So if we could have 3 generators and 3 machines off one cable, connecting all of them, that would be 3 amps of power going through the cable. Okay, so that's how amps work. And you just have to make sure for the volts that everything is rated for that tier of voltage. MV generator, you'll need at least an MV cable and MV machine. Well, that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and comment down below if you learned anything or if you have any more questions. Peace.